Hey everyone, it's Scott here from SCQ Sports Fishing, Extra Charters and Tuition, and going to be doing a bit of a tech talk today in regards to fishing lines. And if you've been in my charter or you follow my page in the charter business that I do here, I'm a lot different than most other charter operators. What I really focus on is trying to teach people the aspects of lure fishing and how to do it properly and how to be really consistent to catch all the species of fish here in southeast Queensland. And basically what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about fishing lines. And doing this for about 8 years this year, what I find is a lot of people come on my boat on a charter and they don't really understand the gear that you use, the differences there is. And one of the biggest things when it comes to fishing is the fishing line that you use. There are different fishing lines on the market for different applications. And one thing I tell everyone that come on my boat, the first 40 minutes to an hour, we do go for a lot of a tuition, rod setup, line setup, lure selection, how the areas work. And one thing I tell people is that a lot of the gear that we use here in Australia, most of it is basically imported from other countries. And it's usually the US, Japan, China, them areas are very, very, that's what most of the gear comes from. So basically what you'll find is that, fishing over there is a lot different than the fishing here. Fishing up in, say, Northern Territory is different than southeast Queensland, and the fishing, say, in Victoria is a lot different than here. There's a number of ways you can do it. So I like to teach people how I do it, what gets me results every day, and then you can transfer it to your own fishing to be more consistent. So there's three main lines on the market that you basically can use, and you use them for different applications, and I'll run through that. So first of all, the most basic line that has been around the longest is what they call monofilament. Okay, this is mono, they call it. Very old school line, been around for a very long time. And basically what mono is, and the differences between the different lines, is that this has been around for years. It's what everyone uses, quite old school. Okay. The thing of mono is that mono line naturally floats. Okay, so if you're doing, say, deep water plastic fishing and that style of fishing where you want your lure to drift properly on the bottom, I probably wouldn't be using mono as much. I don't use mono at all. The only time I ever use mono is for backing when I'm spooling up my braid, which I'll go through. So I always tell my customers, especially if lure fishing, is to steer away from mono up here. The other thing that mono does is mono basically attracts sunlight to it. So with certain lure fishing or certain ways of fishing in shallow water, it will attract sunlight on a sunny day. The fish can see it clearer. And you'll find that the breaking strain on mono is normally a lot less than other styles of lines we'll go through. So I always say to people, steer away from mono, especially if you're lure fishing up here. The main line that we normally use is what they call braid. So braid is basically, there are a number of different braids you can get, but braid is much of the go-to main line that we use. Okay, and what I tell my customers is braids is like a fly line. Okay, when you're lure fishing a lot, you want to see your line. Okay, you want to color, you can see clearly, and especially if you're soft plastic fishing, you want to watch those little bites and those little ticks in the line. And when if a lot of the other line, you can't actually use that, see it. So the braid is, there are a lot of braids on the market. I do find that a lot don't really suit our fishing up here. If you are soft plastic fishing, or if you say throwing hard bodies and surface lures, that's normally two different ways of fishing. So I've always been a big Berkeley braid fan. The Fireline, the X9 braid is what I like because I just find it works really well for up here. And braid is super strong. So one thing that I hear a lot on people commenting on my captures and my clients, I fish quite light. I fish like 6 pound line most of the time on my charters. And if you got to fish light to get the bite. And you got to remember this new technology of line is so strong. So 6 pound braid is probably equivalent to say 15 pound mono. So this is lighter, it's thinner, it's much easier to use as our main line, okay? And if you're fishing lighter and you're fishing thinner stuff, you're going to be catching more fish because the fish can't naturally see it. So braid is really a main line that we use. Obviously when you're fishing with braid, okay, you can't tie this to your lure or your hook because the fish would naturally see it. So what we use is that we use a leader. So when you use a leader, okay, basically what I go to is what they call a fluorocarbon leader. So fluorocarbon's been around for a while. It is relatively new school technology. What difference between fluoro and mono is that fluoro naturally sinks, okay? As I said before, mono will float. And a lot of the lure fishing we do, especially when we fish in soft plastics, because we want to get that jig head down to the bottom to where the fish are, is that your braid will have a really nice floating system, a nice sinking system, and the fluorocarbon will naturally sink with your jig head. And if you've been on my boat or you want to learn how to fish plastics properly, the key is making that lure look as natural as possible. And by having the two right lines will make a huge difference with that. So fluoro, basically the difference between fluoro and mono, like I just said, is fluoro is 100% invisible in water. So where mono attracts sunlight, fluoro basically is invisible to all conditions. The strength is a lot stronger. So usually this is rated at 6 pound, but if you compare it to say mono, I say it's like double. So 6 pound fluoro would probably be like a 12 pound mono breaking strain. So again, you're fishing lighter, okay? The fish can't see it and you're much more better chance of getting that better bite, okay? So basically, the other thing too is this stuff is quite cheap these days. So one of my favorite leaders, and this has been proven in tests, that the Berkeley Vanish leader is known to be the strongest leader that you can possibly buy out of any brand. I've been using this for 15 years. I've won probably 30 tournaments on this. And if you follow my Facebook page and the captures we have, almost every single fish on my Facebook page in the last 8 or 9 years has been caught 90% on 6 pound fluorocarbon leader. So basically this is super strong. So, and it's a lot more abrasive as well. So, little things with what line you use will make a really big difference in your capture rate. And we're going to go through more tech tips this month in videos and how we do things. But this is just one part of it. So you got to remember, you got your rod set up, you got your line set up, you've got your lure set up. If you consistently use the right gear every time you go fishing, okay, you're going to catch more fish. And again, one of the biggest things that I hear on my boat is that people fish in too big line, too heavy line, too big of a gear, and that's half your problem. So downsize your gear, use your right leader, right braid combination, and you'll catch good fish consistently.